Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Titans. A great season finale, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we are moving into the final stages of Scarecrow's plan. And I do appreciate that at one point during the story, he's singing the song from the Scarecrow song, If Only I Had a Brain. I mean, very befitting, but I'm like, honestly, like him saying that with the scars on his face, being Scarecrow and everything, I'm like, it's like on the nose, but I don't care. I thought that was actually pretty, and it's just like the slow rendition he's doing too. Well, it's along the same beats, but it's just like the nature of everything that he's doing, all the mass genocide he's about to cause across Gotham. I don't know, it felt so sinister, so I really enjoyed that. But obviously you have Dick and Jason together, and it's like, right, so they're going to have to break into Wayne Manor ultimately, but it's like, Dick is going to have to unite the Titans, and it's like, but he can't bring Jason with him. He's like, well, you're not going to tell the rest of the Titans? He's like, well, we got too many wars to fight right now. We got to go against Scarecrow. Last thing we need is them, like, tripping out about you. That's a whole thing, because they're going to have to wrap their heads around that. So, like, if I don't contact you in, like, 3 hours, like, meet me back here. So he's got that all situated, but obviously Jonathan releases the, obviously this isn't just some fear toxin, just straight up murder. He kills like, what they estimate to be about 500 to 2,000 people, so just like that, and that was just one bomb. I even like that he's kind of wearing a partial part. I guess he just cut off the top part of it, or just remade a gas mask to look like it, but he's kind of wearing a fraction of like the Scarecrow mask. I would legitimately say I am kind of bummed that we never got to see Vincent actually in the Scarecrow mask, him suited up. But I mean, it's like, he said it himself, this is a point where there's no need for mask anymore. But I'm like, oh man, I kind of wish you had suited up at least for a little bit. We saw you with it in your hands, but you never wore it. I guess like that gas mask is like the closest we'll get to it, but it also makes sense. This is like late into your career, and plus all the like psychotic things you're going through right now, like in your brain, it's like you're like, no, I don't need the mask anymore, because he's trying to prove himself strong. Like, I can just be Jonathan Crane and be scary. I don't need to be Scarecrow to do it, so he obviously wasn't always the most stable individual, but he's definitely mentally has, like, his mental health has declined severely, even more so. So, like I said, I'm still kind of bummed we never got to see that, but I do like the interesting element of, like, why? I'm not going to wear a mask anymore, because wearing the mask would only prove, like, right, I need to be Scarecrow to get this done. As Jonathan Crane, I'm strong enough. I'm not afraid. I'll do it, Because the mask is just him, like, covering up his own fears by becoming someone else. I think you could make the parallels to, like, Batman in that regard of, like, but to be fair, it's like, truth be told, is Bruce Wayne is more the mask than Batman is. So it's actually on the other way around, where it's like, oh, Jonathan Crane, at least in his mind and the way other people view him, even Bruce. And maybe that's why Bruce can talk so harshly about him, because it's like, no, like, I wear the mask of Bruce Wayne. He wears the mask that is Scarecrow to make himself feel more powerful. I wear the mask of Bruce Wayne to make myself just seem normal. So it's like they are like on completely opposite ends of that spectrum. So I think that's, I don't know, I just never really thought about it until just now, but nevertheless, I love that, like, V was talking about, like, right, you guys can back away from this right now, like, because the moment, like, you go up against Barbara, like, it completely screws you over, and they're like, oh, this is nothing personal, and she's like, well, she didn't say that. And all of a sudden, she immediately kicks their asses, and it's like, what's up? Oh, she's highly trained. Like, what's up with this? Turns out V works for freaking Argus. I was like, oh. She's like, yeah, I was sitting here to investigate when, like, Ra's al Ghul was, like, making his moves in Gotham. Like, he was setting up that Lazarus Pit was part of that plan, but I guess it got shut down. But Argus has been keeping an eye on it ever since then. She's like, yeah, I take advantage of the benefits from the GCPD, but I don't actually work for them. And it's like, and I love Barbara being like, right, Roy Harper Argus? And I was like, wait, so it's like Roy in charge of, like, Argus in this continuity? Once again, it's just that, because I think they referenced Roy in previous seasons. I want to say even last season they referenced Roy. Maybe they talked, because I feel like I remember, like, it was like Starfire and Donna, maybe? Somebody at some point, I feel like it had to be season 2, but I could be wrong. Do correct me in the comments down below, but I do feel like Roy was referenced in this show. Like, knowing, like, oh, Arsenal exists in this continuity. I'd assume he's already left Green Arrow's side, maybe. I mean, a lot of sidekicks that we see with Dick already kind of went off on his own. I mean, granted, it's not like it was been that long since he left Batman's side, but still. So, But I'm wondering, I guess because in my head too, I'm always associating it with Arrow, where I think like, oh, Amanda Waller, which I don't know. I have to look into it because I don't think she's always tied to Argus. That might have just been an Arrow thing, or maybe that typically is the thing because I don't know. I mean, I think her position probably always changes of like what group she's leading because it's in a group she's typically associated with called Checkmate. I think that's the group I'm thinking of. I could be mistaken because I think that's who. Because I know she was played by Pam Grier in Smallville, and that's the group she was a part of, Checkmate, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, but I want to say that was that. Regardless, tangents and all that. But obviously, V's already like, oh, like replaced everyone. It's like, oh, there's Argus members here, so that's all going down. We're in the aftermath of everything that went down with Connor, Blackfire, and Starfire, and it's almost like, wait, you sabotaged the ship, which Blackfire's not too pissed about. I mean, it sucks, and yes, it was selfish of him, but also it's like, me and Connor are the same way. Like, we do whatever we can to get what we want in this world. The world's kind of taking a lot from us, so to get what we want, we'll take a little bit back if we have to. So she's okay with us. Starfire's like, are you crazy? Fine, whatever, I'm done with this. But then obviously she gets called by Barbara, you know. At the same time, Donna's helping out with Tim and his family, and your boy pulls out, like, you know, gets him one good kick. But Donna's like, where'd you learn that? He's like, YouTube. It's like, of course you did. But then your girl Rachel comes in, takes most of the guys out like it's nothing. Little mini Titans reunion where like Gar gets to hug her and so does Rachel. So, but Tim stays behind because his mom and his dad realize, like, right, we need you, but Gotham needs you more. So, go ahead and do what you need to do. So he tags along. Then you have the entire Titans together. Everyone's trying to formulate a plan around like how to deal with this. You have Starfire and Wonder Girl like trying to figure out like what to do about the people, because they're also trying to read through all these different poems of Crane's because they're trying to figure out where all the bombs are hidden. Like, everyone's looking all over the place trying to piece stuff together, and in that moment Dick decides to, like, you know, try to make amends with Connor, which Connor's like, no, I get it, you did what you thought you had to, which he, you know, it's like, yeah, sometimes it doesn't always work out, but he realizes, like, it's like, yeah, we don't have time for our bad blood, so they kind of dap it up. But looking at everyone, especially because he's asking Starfire to come up with a miracle to stop all, you know, help with the whole situation. But looking at them spending so much time spinning their wheels, Dick is like, no, let's stop. Like, this is all part of his plan. He wants us so focused on the game that he's playing another game. Like, this whole thing is part of his game. We're going by his playbook, you know. And so even Barbara agrees. It's like, right, you know, Crane is counting on us to handle this situation like Batman would, because he knew out of anyone we would follow that playbook. So it's like, we can't like go by the means of what he wants us to do. So this is when they make the decision to break into Wayne Manor. But then like Starfire's like, yeah, I think we have an idea for that miracle. So they plan on taking the Lazarus Pit and spreading it across the city, making it storm and rain down on the city to revive all the people that died, which has worked. But it's a one-shot deal. So if any more people die, they won't be able to bring them back. And I love that Connor puts it on the board. And it's like, Donald's like, yeah, that's what we just said. He's like, yeah, but I put it on the board. Because he was trying to explain it from a scientific standpoint. Part of me was almost like, oh, is this supposed to be like, oh, is that supposed to be like a Connor mansplaining them to them their own idea? Like, it just makes me wonder. It's like, oh, is that supposed to be a little bit of that Lex inside of him? But also it's like, no, like, here's me, like, simplifying, like, the science behind it, understanding, like, how we do it. It's like, we got it. So it's like, it's just a matter of making it happen. So Connor, Rachel, Blackfire, and Starfire are all going to work on this. And I think this is interesting because I don't think they ever really talked about it before now. It's interesting to know, like, the Lazarus Pit doesn't fill you with murderous rage like it does in the Arrowverse, but in this universe, and maybe this typically applies, anyone that gets put in there, all of their fears and like all the stuff that like scares them and stuff like that, it draws upon those memories and stuff like that. So like all that darkness, it's just, that's why the pool looks the way it is, kind of polluted like that, is because it draws upon all the negativity of everyone that's been in it. That's why, like, you know, that's why you kind of have to fight through your own darkness to get back out. So that's what Dick went through. And so Rachel ends up having to absorb all that darkness. Blackfire heats it up, and Starfire uses her power to kind of like hold it all in, and so they basically have it raining down. Granted, it's like, right, we forgot about the other element to a storm, the lightning. It's not going to mean much if like Gotham gets burned to the ground. So Donna, using a lasso of truth, ends up, I guess now, because like beforehand the electricity, she wasn't ready for it. This time she is, because she's using the lasso as kind of, I mean, the lasso can like, well, lasso lightning, as we've seen from 1984, Wonder Woman 1984. So I'm guessing like maybe it kind of grounds it a little bit. So this time like she has something to kind of ground the electricity to. So it's passing through the lasso and maybe nullifying a bit as it passes through her body and straight to the ground. Maybe that's how that's working. Who cares? It's pretty badass. It's like, yeah, get two examples of lassos, the lasso and lightning. That's kind of interest. Like, once again, it's like never would have crossed my mind that was something you could do. If it wasn't for 84, I wouldn't even thought about that. So part of me wonders, is that like a wink and nod to 84 in that regard? I mean, who knows? Maybe that's something that's like actually pretty common for them to do in the comics. I don't know. Either way, it was sick as hell in 84. But regardless, so, and I love that it starts raining down and stuff like that. And Artie shows up later on like, oh, it was a good idea and everything. And I love that he's tripping out. He's like, oh my God, you're Wonder Girl and you're Raven. Can I get a photo? And he's like taking a selfie after everything was said and done, because luckily the rain pours down, and it's and even as Barbara says later on, because I knew that the episode's title was called Purple Rain, I was like, how is that? Oh, because it's literal purple rain. It's like, okay. But you know that has to be, like, I wondered, like, before Prince, did the word Purple Rain, did that have any significance prior to Prince? Because when you hear Purple Rain, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, Prince. I forgot. Nope. YouTube. No. Forgot. I'm a terrible singer anyway, but it's just like, you'll hear just saying the words, you almost want to burst out into it. I don't know that many words. I only know like that little bit of the song. I don't know many Prince's songs. I know like Dove's Cry. I don't even know if that's the actual title of the song. I think it is. Or is it just Dove? I don't know. Whatever the case may be. It's just like when you hear Purple Rain, I immediately think of Prince. So I'm like, is there anything that existed beforehand that would like be like, what does that reference exist before Prince, or did Prince just be, is that always going to be the top result? It's always going to, I'm interested in kind of googling that afterwards to see what kind of comes up. But while this is all going down, the plans are to break into Wayne Manor, because they, it's like, right, like while we're distracted looking for the bombs, like he hopes that we will be, so he sends Gar in there, but it's like, yeah, you got some backup too, and that's Jason. And so Jason's like, yeah, I saw what happened in the city, so I figured I'd bunker down. But obviously, Jonathan's like, yeah, let him in, let him see what happens to Gotham, and then kill him afterwards. So, but your boy, moment he gets the opportunity, he cuts loose, and he doesn't kill the cops, so that says something, because like the guy's like, please don't shoot, and he just like kicks him and knocks him out. So Gar's working on that, because we actually saw that if you saw DC Fandom, this was actually a sneak peek they showed at DC Fandom, like this particular scene where Gar's dealing with that while Jason is dealing with the police, and there's a conversation about cutting the red wire, which is like, no, you never cut the red wire. And so it comes down to like needing a password, the one that got away. And it's like, Tim knows too much. It's kind of like to know, like, right, Selena Kyle, and even Gar's like, who's Selena Kyle? I guess I wonder, do most people not know Catwoman's real name? Like, I mean, I guess most people know like the bad guys by their names. It's like, Joker's kind of a whole thing, because it's like, no one really knows his identity. I mean, I guess that, determined by the continuity, but Riddler, Edward Enigma, Selena Kyle as Catwoman, Jonathan Crane as Scarecrow, but most people probably will just know him as Scarecrow, unless you're probably part of the Bats. And obviously Tim's done a lot of hacking, so he knows like what's what, but he knew like, Selena Kyle. I wonder, does he say that because he knows, because he's done enough research on Batman to be like, oh yeah, like him and Catwoman have had a thing. Like, it could have been Catwoman, but it was Selena Kyle. So he's done a lot deeper of a dive to know something like that, because probably, I'm curious, would Jason even know that password? Maybe Barbara might know that. Dick might know that. I'm curious, like, who would have gotten that besides Tim. I feel like those three, but I'm not even sure if Jason would have gotten that. But I love that, obviously, this is like your boy Nightwing has to make his appearance and kick some serious ass. And I love that guy being like, oh, Barbara's not here to save you this time. It's like, no, don't worry about it. Well, it's kind of, she's not here to save your ass either. And it's like, but I'll tell her you said hi. Granted, that whole last part, the previous part was me adding that in there. But it's like, yeah, I love how you thought you were going to take Nightwing down, but okay. So now it's time to wreck shop, but Jason doesn't want to be here because it's like letting Jonathan know and like, oh, I'm a part of taking you down, that's enough. But I even love that like Dick went to the camera and kind of smiled and kind of gave him a wave, and then Jonathan was like, he kind of backed to him, he was like, ugh. He's like, fuck countdowns, let's just do it now. He'll try to be all suspenseful and all super villainy because he's trying to prove himself and flex and like, oh, I'm so good, I'm so smart, look at my plan come down. Shit, alright, I'm gonna just release it all at once. So but Jason doesn't want to be a part of it because he's like, this has to be something the Titans have to finish, and it's like, he's not a Titan anymore, just tell the Titans I'm sorry. And he's like, thank you. And he's like, what are you thanking me for? I was never here. So but Jonathan's plans come crumbling down because the screen he's seeing is a fake, because they now have access to like all like the explosives before he could send them off. And I was like, hey, the Bat Cave's a little crowded. So Tim, it's like, this is for trying to, like, you tried to kill my family, and it gets it a good punch. It's like, yeah, Jonathan Crane goes down like a punk because he's not anyone special. It's just because, you know, Jason was kind of afraid of him. But like in that moment where everything's kind of, when his deck of cards are crumbling down, he turns him for that fearful little punk. Jonathan Crane, he's not, he doesn't have the alter ego Scarecrow to hide behind, so he's not that tough in this moment. So but they ended up saving the day, and Gotham ended up being saved because of them. So we kind of jump around a little bit as Connor and Artie reveal that because of Connor's mind and recollection, they were able to start, they're going to have everything they need to start rebuilding her ship. And, for Connor, it's like, right, what I did before was selfish, but if you decide that you want to go to Tamarin, who am I to stand in your way? So you also have Bruce coming back and seeing Gotham in, I think, in a new way he hasn't seen it in a long time, because everyone, like, Gotham's in a bad place, but like seeing everyone kind of together cleaning up Gotham, I think it's still something. And I was like, I don't think he's seen his city like this in a long time. The Titans were able to do something for Gotham that he couldn't. And so obviously coming back, he's fortunate, like, yeah, my house is still in order, not everyone's that lucky, but obviously he feels like he failed, which even Dick is like, yeah, I got my second chance, so I'm fortunate enough to have that. And I think for Bruce, he kind of has one now too. And he talks to talks to Jason, and obviously for Jason, it's like he's done too much. He's hurt too many people. He can't go back. And I like that moment where Bruce is like, it's my fault. I couldn't see your fear because looking at your fear made me, it was, you and me are too close. Like, so looking at your fear would have been looking at my own. And obviously Bruce, like, buried his fear. He, like each of his children did, whether it's Dick, whether it's Jason, they used it rather than giving into their fear. Like, they, like, took it and then they lashed out in anger. Like, that was their way of dealing with things because he taught them that way. And obviously it's like, maybe I could have prevented all of this, and for Jason, there's no going back to this life. And it's like, well, what's in store for you with this next life? But he was like, yeah, when you killed the Joker, was that for me? And he was like, yeah, it was. And it's like, thanks, and leaves. And he's like, goodbye, son. It's just because at the very least, Jason has begun to make amends, but I think going forward, Red Hood is going to represent that. Like, whatever his story takes him next, as Red Hood, he's going to continue trying to make up for all that he did in Gotham. It's like, right, regardless of everything, like, maybe one day the Titans will forgive him. Him and Dick are square. Him and Bruce are in a better place, because even Bruce is like, I'm sorry, like, I overstepped my boundaries, but it's just like, I couldn't see your fear. And if I had helped you ahead of time, if I was willing to, like, help you face, if I was willing to see your fear and help you through it, if I had actually helped you, we could have prevented all this. But I wasn't there when you needed me. So, but I mean, they can't rewind time, so all they can do is find a way to move forward. But each one of them does have a second chance. Jason has a second chance. Question is, what is he going to do with it? And same thing for Bruce. Now that he backed away from all this, it begs the question, especially with everything with Tim. I'm wondering, will he find a new Robin? I mean, he has candidates. We know one of them, Stephanie Brown. There is no Batgirl. So, and I left it in a comment. I don't know if I brought it up the next episode or not. But Stephanie Brown, because I didn't know this, she becomes our own hero. I forgot what her code name is. it was something very unique that I was like, oh, that's such an interesting code name, but I don't remember what it was. I'm blanking on it now, but like I said, I think I'd put it in the comments down below. Maybe not. But I do know that for a bit of time, she was Robin and she was Batgirl. I knew about Robin. I didn't know about her, like, picking up the mantle. Because it was like, oh yeah, Stephanie Brown's the only person in the Bat family to ever hold, like, both mantles at one point in time. Like, she's the only person that's ever done both. So that was interesting. It was only for short periods of time, but that's still, like, it seems like she's still the only one up to, even to this point in DC Comics to ever do that. So I think that's kind of interesting. But so I'm wondering, like, is he going to fill the role of Robin? I mean, probably not, because like someone else is going to be occupying that with the whole Tim situation. So he wants to become the next Robin and everything. So I guess Bruce is just going back. I mean, Gotham's in a good place now, and maybe just the GCPD will handle things for now. But because obviously, like, you know, Dick and Barbara talk about everything, and it's like, them saying their goodbyes. Obviously, like, he's like, you could always come to San Francisco with me, and she's like, well, you could always stay here, but they're both needed where they're needed. And it's like, you know, see you next time, because it's like she's slowly filling out the GCPD's ranks using the Argus's help while they're still in town. Which, speaking of Argus, they're reaching out to Donna. Could always use her help, and I love that. It's like, oh yeah, like, there's a chip in it, just hold it up to your phone and it automatically start dialing. It's pretty cool. Not really my idea, but it's pretty cool. So Argus has had their eyes on her for a while, but it's like, yeah, they found out she died, but then they're like, oh, you're strolling to Gotham alive and well, so, you know, we have to update our file. So I'm curious, are we going to see more of Argus since they creeped in this season? Will we see more of them in the future or not? That'd be interesting, especially if they're trying to scout Donna. But oh yeah, because I was trying to remember what she said she was going to do. She was going to go try and track down Donna. You know, as I got to pass on that message from Hank. So we'll see kind of where things go from there and what she does beyond that. But obviously the Titans are ready to go back to San Francisco, and everyone's saying they're goodbye. And I love that Dick shows up in the bus, because it's like, yeah, it'd be cooler than riding in that Bruce's jet. And then, like, Corey's like, how would that be cooler? But everyone says their goodbyes. Obviously, Blackfire shows up, and, you know, her and Starfire, it's like, yeah, you know, we're not going to be one of those sisters that are best friends, but we're not killing each other anymore. But obviously the people in Tamarin, like, don't forgive easily, so even if you go back, it won't be the easiest thing. But Starfire, you know, knows, like, but she's not alone anymore, so she has her sister's support and help, and it's like, if need be, she'll be there if she needs her to be. So we'll see how things kind of go for Blackfire on that front. But also, Connor has to say his goodbyes to her. But Artie is working on something that could make it so he could breathe on Tamarin. So maybe in the near future, he can come visit her on Tamarin. So that was pretty dope. And obviously, Tim, you know, Donna's like, yeah, you would have made a good Robin. And Tim's like, what are you waiting for? Like, come on. Like, you know, are you coming or not? He's like, yeah, you're pretty good, but you're going to need more training. I'm like, all right. Which is very, like, Young Justice-esque. But, I mean, maybe that's how that typically works out, that Nightwing takes Tim under his wing to kind of train him to be Robin. Because, like, obviously, like, Tim replaces Dick in Young Justice as Robin. Once again, I'm just remembering this from, like, the... Because I saw all of Season 2, I believe, years ago when it originally came out. I have to rewatch everything. But, aside from all of that, I love the whole... Because obviously it's like Donna was putting it out there, like, right, with second chances and all that, coming back to life, and dying and coming back to life, it puts life in perspective of kind of what you want. And some of the stuff that Dick saw with, like, him having a child and everything, we didn't see any necessary hint of it, but I think that might be something going forward. I'm curious to see how they handle that, because, like I said, it seemed like it was going to be like a him and Starfire thing. Maybe he's not thinking too much of it, or maybe it's somewhere in the back of his mind. But I love it. It's like, right, it's going to be like a 44-hour trip, and Starfire's like, 44 hours? Fine, I get to play DJ with the music. But it's like they got to make one more stop, and they show up at Arkham. And, you know, it's like, regardless of what you do to me, it's fine. You might have stopped me now, but, Gotham is a revolving door, and the fact of the matter is there are so many doors. I'll find my way out of here eventually. Nothing can kind of stop me. But it's like, Dick's like, yeah, not this time. And Rachel comes in, and everything that she got from the Lazarus pit, she puts inside of him. So all those memories, all those fears, all that darkness is going to be driving him insane. So, and I just love, like, Raven just saying the line while her eyes are glowing red like that, like, oh, sweet dreams. So they leave him to drown in his own madness. So no worries about him, and less likely to see him in the future. There's other stuff associated with that as well. But just for the context of the story, we won't get into, like, real life stuff, but it's like, at least rumored, alleged stuff outside of the show, but like in the context of the show, it's like, oh, he's gonna be drowning in his own madness for a while. So nice kind of like wrap up to the season. I mean, to be fair, season 2 does the same thing. Season 1 probably would have done it if it wasn't for like episode 1 of season 2. Like, someone explained it to me like last year when season 2 came, or the year before last when season 2 had come out, about the whole reason why that happened. Because like episode 1 of season 2 was supposed to be part of it. Was kind of like that, how like COVID affected a lot of shows. So like their first episodes was actually wrapping up, like a lot of the CW stuff, like their first episodes of their new seasons were like picking up and finishing the arcs from the previous seasons, because they weren't able to film that whole thing. So it's kind of a similar case with Titans previously, but season 2 wrapped up pretty like, oh, it's just the Titans and they're off doing their thing. There was no like real full-blown setup for the next season, and we kind of did that. Like, obviously we've introduced concepts of just kind of like, right, Argus is out there, they're interested in Donna. Tim is with the Titans as they're training and just kind of going on a road trip. Like, it's just kind of nice to think about the Titans in an RV road trip. I wonder would the next season kind of pick up with that, or would be like months later of them getting back to San Francisco, what awaits them, who's the next baddie. A lot of this information might be out there, but Titans was renewed for a 4th season. I don't know if the information was out there beforehand, but along with the sneak peek at DC Fandom, Brenton Thwaites, who plays Nightwing, announced, that, yeah, like, Titans is coming back for a season 4, so I'm excited to see what's next for the Titans, now that they're kind of, some members down, sure, but to an extent, they are all together, so what's next on their journey? What other characters will they meet, both good and bad? Maybe there's reasons for it. Like, I never got an answer for, like, why Rose isn't with them. Maybe she kind of went her own way after helping the Titans last season. Like, but there might be information out there about, like, oh, it's because of this and this and this. Like, whatever the case may be. Maybe, like, she might pop up. Like, I said, I don't know if there's other reasons why she didn't pop up this season, why she wasn't part of the, like, maybe she stayed in San Francisco, even though, like, most of the squad came here to go, so, like I said, she could just be kind of doing, like, Jason is, and just kind of off on his own. I'm curious if he's going to be, because he was leaving Gotham too, if I'm not mistaken, because it's like, yeah, he can't stay here anymore because everything, he probably said goodbye to Molly, at least hope so, but yeah, he's leaving behind Jason Todd and just probably being Red Hood full time, and what that necessarily entails. Maybe we'll get some look and feel of that, or some of that in season 4. Maybe not. Like I said, I don't know if there's any, because at DC Fandom they didn't really talk about it. They just talked about, like, right, because I guess they didn't want to ruin anything for the season finale. So just knowing there is a season 4, maybe there's some stuff out there. But I haven't read anything. Kind of don't want to read anything. I just want to kind of be surprised when season 4 rolls out. But I'm excited to see what season 4 ultimately has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.